Good morning. Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I am very excited that it is sourdough season, and these are going to be the first 2 sourdough sandwich loaves that I will have made this season. The reason that I don't keep up my sourdough over the summer is that it seems to proof too quickly. I know that you can proof your sourdough in the refrigerator, so that's something that I may experiment with this upcoming spring and summer season, because I just love homemade bread, and it's really hard to go without it over the summer. I have a video going over this entire process, start to finish, with my sandwich loaf here, and I'll link that at the end of this video. It's clearly very well proofed, probably getting close to overproofed. It was pretty warm in my house last night, mostly because I had the oven on last night. Now, I am no cast iron expert, but after sitting all summer, I had them kind of nested together. My 2 pans here were actually pretty rusted, so I spent some time trying to resurface them and reseason them. They're not perfect, but it'll do. Every time I have the oven on, it heats up the house, which makes things go a little bit faster with this process. Scrambled quail eggs? Okay. Bailey, what kind of eggs do you want? Okay, how many? Okay. The girls wanted scrambled duck eggs. So another project that I'm working on this morning is making some tallow candles to give away as Christmas gifts. So I have this tallow that's from last season. I've got quite a lot of goat tallow that we just didn't go through this season. And we've got more goat tallow now, and we have all of that lard from processing our pigs. So I don't have an immediate use for this, and tallow does have a shelf life. So all of the tallow that I'm using today has been sealed since 2022. It's just rendered tallow. There's nothing else added into it. I've never experienced tallow going rancid, and you can smell it when it is rancid. So, oh, okay. No, it smells beautiful. So this stuff is still good. I am going to use it for candles today. One of my friends who makes a lot of things at home, Miss Carrie, she said that adding beeswax into the tallow is going to help lengthen the shelf life of our candles. And I am going to be putting in some essential oils, and that's going to help as well. So first things first is I've got to get all of the tallow and beeswax melted down. So I'm just using the crock pot as sort of a double boiler. I'm going to be putting my tallow in here. And then this jar is going to melt the beeswax. So I did a little bit of research into tallow candles. This is my first time making them. And it seems like a good ratio, beeswax to tallow, is a 5 parts tallow, 1 parts beeswax. So I don't really know. I mean, I know that there's about 7 cups of tallow here. So I'll need a little bit more than 1 cup of beeswax. So I'm just gonna sort of guess. It's not gonna hurt if I overdo it, so I will err on the side of too much beeswax. This is beeswax from our bees too. So these candles are going to be 99.9% from our farm, which is fun. I could pull out the cheese grater and grate up this beeswax. It would help it, you know, melt down a lot faster, but I do have all day, so I'm not in a rush. There we go. So it's probably not necessary to cover these jars with this taller jar here. I can't put the lid to the crock pot on. We've got kind of a fruit fly situation in our house right now. I don't want fruit flies in my candle, so I'm just gonna lightly cover these. All right, crock pot on low. Here's the status of the bread. Almost ready to go in the oven. Like my seasoning job wasn't too bad. So the bread is done and looking lovely. I noticed that the tallow is very nearly melted and the beeswax is a little further behind, but it's starting to melt as well. So this is gonna work, this system. Okay, so technically you should wait for your bread to cool before slicing it. I never do that. So I always take a big fat slice out of the middle as kind of my reward for making the bread. Isn't it lovely? So even though it is, you know, hot still, and in theory it should be harder to slice, this bread recipe does really well. There's a few little crumblies on the outside edge, and you do avoid this by letting it cool down, but that's no fun. So I'm actually gonna cut a pretty fat slice for myself this morning, straight out of the middle. And then I can kind of put these back together and keep it soft. How wonderful this is. Oh, so good. Okay, so it's candle making time. Again, I've never done this before, but I've looked at a couple different YouTube videos, and what this one is right here, this is just the beeswax. I'm gonna move quickly. All I'm doing right now is taking these wicks, dipping them in the beeswax, and then placing these in the center of these little 4-ounce jars here, just to get this wick to stay, to kind of stick. I need to go quickly though. Beeswax solidifies very, very fast. Right, so hopefully these won't move too much when I pour in the rest of it. It took basically no time, and the wax in the bottom of this jar is essentially completely solid. But it is at this point that I am going to be blending up, not really blending, but combining all of my different fats and oils. So here's some goat tallow. This is not going to solidify as fast, but it will go pretty fast. So everything's really hot. Woo! Which is why I'm protecting my hand. You know, I'm not sure that I really need to pour in all of them, because I only have these 12 jars here. I'm using this citrus bloom essential oil. I am going to put the whole thing in there. Well, that smells lovely. Here's my beeswax. Okay. There are some little floaters, could be some impurities. I did strain the beeswax twice, but it happens. Time to pour it in. So you can see how my wicks are leaning. I need them to stand straight up so that the candles will burn evenly. So I'm just gonna set each of these up using a clothespin. This is how I've seen it done. I wonder if I should start on the other end, because the other end was poured first and I'm trying to move fast. Okay. There. Doesn't it smell good, Addie?
It does.
Yeah. That beeswax worked really well to anchor these wicks down. So I do have a little bit extra mixture here. I'm just gonna try to top some of these off and use it all up. so cool. And the smell is lovely and light. I could have maybe even possibly added more essential oils, but I'm super happy with this. So what I have to do now is cut down this wick. And I'm gonna err on the side of longer because I can always cut it back later if the candles are a little bit too smoky. So about a 1/2 inch will do. When it comes to packaging these up for friends and family, I am gonna tilt the wick just a little so I can put that on top and keep any dust or animal hair or anything out of it in the meantime. I did have a little bit of the mixture left over, so I stuck it in this jar, and I was able to put a wick down in there. So on this particular candle, some of the beeswax floated to the top. That's because I added the extra beeswax that I had while this was cooling down. So that's what that yellowness is about. These here are gifts, and I don't want to light them, but I do want to show you what this is gonna look like. So we'll light this one. There, that's better.